Hello and welcome to the Zaffie Show. We're happy to be here and hope that you will join us. We're going to have an interesting show today, and there's been a lot of excitement around the community with voting coming up. And I would like to introduce STAVROS MENDROS, and he's running for Maine Senate. Now, how did you get interested in that?
Well, I'm running for the Saco, Old Orchard, Hollis, Buxton, and Leamington. See, I served in the legislature. I was elected from Lewiston 20 years ago. I served 2 terms in the Maine House, and then I ran for U.S. Congress. I'm still the only Republican since 1902 to win a legislative seat in the city of Lewiston, so I'm pretty moderate. Some issues, I'm really not moderate. People say I'm extreme. I'm either very liberal on some issues and very conservative on others. When I have a degree in creative writing. I'm a writer. I do consulting. I do marketing. I own a business, sells at the Oxford Fairgrounds. I sell other people's cars. We do a car auction to the public. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit, Mitchell and Thelma Cope Foundation, and it helps with senior housing. And a big thing we've been doing is helping kids in third world countries that have brain injuries get their hand-eye coordination back by making art with clay. So I'm involved in a lot of things. I like to make a difference. And I've always believed...
You're a people person.
I am. And I'm not into... I took like 2 political science classes in college. Never really been into it. I've always believed that you need to live in the regular world, like our founding fathers believed, and then get involved if you want to be involved. But you have to understand how the world works. So that's what I did. I served on the city council up there, I served on the school board, served on our finance committee, gave back. My daughter, I have 2 daughters. My older daughter excels unbelievably in school. She got a scholarship at Thornton Academy Middle School. Her teachers wrote her these amazing letters of recommendation of how, even though they're public school teachers, and they shouldn't say this, she can excel. She can go places, and she really needs that. So I moved down here. And restarted my life down here in York County. It's been great. I'm glad I did it. Should have done it sooner. As I said to her, her future is more important than my past. And I moved down. The candidate running for this Saco Senate seat, the Republican, dropped out. I was asked to run, and I certainly know how to make noise and get attention. And I did that, and I'm pretty happy with already the results. I've been working. There's a House candidate, Joe Lynch, who was talking about the traffic problem in Saco.
Oh, we have one.
And I've been hammering that, he's been hammering that, and everyone's talking about it now. His opponent, my opponent, everyone, all the candidates are talking, they got to do something about traffic, but I know how to draw attention to an issue. That's what I've done. That's what I did when I was in Lewiston. That's what I've done. The traffic issue and the erosion issue, everyone talks about it, but until you start hammering it and getting people angry and riling people up, and making it, then everyone starts talking about it, and then someone does something. So I feel that, if nothing else, everyone knows the traffic's a problem in Saco. But they've known it for a while, and they're dragging their feet. Now, it's already moving to the front burner issue. It needs to be addressed immediately because it's going to stifle the downtown. It's going to stifle growth. People aren't going to want to move here. They're not going to want to open businesses here because it's such a problem. And it needs to be addressed aggressively, and that's certainly what I want to go to Augusta and do. That's what I've learned. I didn't know that when I got in. I didn't know that. I knew it was a problem until I started talking to people. That and the erosion problem in Camp Ellison and Old Orchard. Those are big problems. You know, where I am in Hollis, property tax low, everything. So we're fortunate to have great water and to have Poland Spring there, a great employer, keeps property taxes down, keeps good jobs around, but not everyone has that. And really, Saco's the service center, downtown Saco, Biddeford together. You want to bring more jobs, you want to make that grow, you've got to solve the traffic problem because that's only going to stifle everything.
At 3:30 on?
I was coming down here before I moved down here. I remember one day I came up over the hill. I was still on the Maine Turnpike, and traffic was stopped. Yep. And it was raining, and I slammed on my brakes, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to stop in time. So I slid slightly in between lanes, and I stopped about half a foot from the car in front of me, and the car behind me stopped 2 feet from the car in front of me. So if I hadn't moved, he would have hit me. and there would have been an accident. And I was like, this is crazy. And this is on the turnpike just trying to get off. And then you get there and all the exits are congested. And it's a problem, and DOT needs to be called on the carpet and make it do something.
I don't know what they can do, but something's got to be done.
Well, even in the short term, even if they just reopen the old exit 5 and try to take some pressure off that way. But they need to.
Even coming down North Street, going by my street, at 4:30, I can't get out.
Yep. Oh, yeah, when I go in the morning to drop out, coming in from Hollis, I come in on 112 to drop my daughter off at Thornton, and a drive that should take 10 minutes takes a half hour.
Yep. They come from all directions.
Yep.
You mentioned about people moving in and building homes. Well, we've got more children, too.
Yeah.
We need a school.
Yeah.
We need a school.
Absolutely.
Because the ones we had need to be repaired.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we need a school.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's a good problem to have. That people want to live here. People are coming here. People with families are coming here. They want to live here. People are doing the right thing. The community's doing the right thing to bring business here, but the traffic is going to kill all of that. It's going to stifle it unless it gets resolved and resolved soon. Even if, they're talking about, when you get out in Kennebunk, how there's the exit's bigger. It starts earlier and there's an island in between, something like that. They're talking about doing that, but they got to do it sooner rather than later. It needs to.
And in the summer, it's worse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because then Old Orchard's swarming with people.
When we get on the turnpike, I say to Maria, where are all these people going? Where are they coming from?
Yeah. So those are key issues. So what did I got into politics way back in college, really. I had some friends that were doing it, and they were talking about running, and actually, it's kind of a funny story. I took out the paperwork. I was involved in a service fraternity, and my roommate was in it, and I took out papers to run. There was an opening in the state senate, in the student senate, and I took the papers out to put my roommate's name on it, so when he went to vote, he'd see his name. And I filled out at the signatures. There was no name on it. I brought it in, and the secretary knew me. He said, "Oh, you forgot. I wanted to make sure it was right. You forgot to put your name on it," so she put my name on it. So it was me, and not him. And then 4 people ran for 4 seats, so I won. And then I got on the student senate, and everyone was there as a political science major, and they were writing. They had all these resolutions to write letters to do this and complain about this, but there was nothing to actually do anything. So I got involved. I said, we could really improve student life, and we did. We did a bunch of good things, and then I was asked to run for vice president. I was vice president, University of Maine. Then I was president, and they used to tow cars. That was the one big thing. Back then, it was a big deal. If you parked illegally, they tow your car, and we changed that policy. I ran on it, and I did it, and then I got involved, and we went down to Augusta because there were big budget cuts, and I had a big rally and got them to put money back in a lot of money back in for the university system. So I went to Augusta, and I was like, boy, it's the same thing. So I decided I wanted to run for the legislature and ran in Lewiston. I think I mentioned that before. I was the only Republican to win still since 1902. And I really ran with no agenda other than to focus on my community and make a difference and help people and meet people and try to make a difference in people's lives. My favorite thing to do was when people would call me because they had a problem. In 1999, every legislator gets a list of abandoned property. It's money after 5 years. If you have money in a bank account or that's owed to you, you forget about it, it goes to this account. In 1999, 16.9% of all money returned in Maine was people I contacted. I got that list. I contacted people that had lost money, and 1/6 of all money. The Democrat, Dale McCormick, was the state treasurer then. She called me the shining star of the Maine legislature in 2000 for all those people I contacted. It was one woman, she had almost $8,000 in an insurance policy from her husband she didn't know about. I called her, I remember I found it, I called her, I contacted her on how to get it, and told me it saved her. Her house was in foreclosure. That $8,000 saved her home. So I loved it. And people, that's what I love to do. You call me up, I will cut through the red tape, I will get the problem solved for you. That's why I got into politics. I didn't get into politics to push an agenda, left or right. I read the issues, I research the issues, I make my decision. I don't get told what to do. I stand up You know, I've had Democrats, liberal Democrats, very active, endorse me. Republicans endorse me. Both. I keep pointing to this flyer. Both when I served, both the independents who served with me in my first and second term. There was one independent in the legislature my first term, one independent in the legislature my second term. They both endorsed me to get things done. I'm not afraid to make enemies. I get people mad at me. I stir things up, but I get things done ultimately, and that's what I want to do. If the people of Saco, Old Orchard, Hollis, Buxton, and Leamington will have me as their senator, I guarantee I will keep things interesting like we Aquariuses do, and I will make things happen for the community.
You know, we were talking earlier how you resemble your family, your father.
Yeah.
Your father was a doctor.
Yes.
I remember him.
Yeah.
And I knew your mother, but you lived in Lewiston then.
Yeah.
But I knew the Mendros family way back.
Oh yeah, people still. My Uncle Tommy passed away.
Long time
1980,
ago.
and people still talk about him, and they remember him. Their oil man, he came in.
He was a very nice man.
Yeah, and my cousin George, the track coach at Thornton Academy.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
And you resemble the family. You look just like your cousin Louie.
Yep.
It's amazing how these faces keep coming up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. My Aunt Vassie, my Uncle Paul, they had Gregory's Market in Old Orchard forever, and
Yeah, they're very nice people.
Yeah, it was strange moving down here, leaving Lewiston, but it was so much family here.
For you, yes.
There were 11 kids in my dad's family, and I have one uncle went to Oklahoma, but everyone else is around here.
11 children?
Yeah. And then my grandparents. My parents met in Greece. So my mother's from Greece. They met when my dad was in med school. My grandparents actually met here. So my grandmother family, Rizziakos, not the Mendros side.
Now, I didn't know you were related to them.
Yeah, that's my grandmother. That's Chris.
Yeah.
The Golden Rooster. He's my second cousin. So, yeah. So there's a lot of family I have down here. And
how many cousins? You must have how many cousins and second cousins?
Oh, second cousins, I can't even begin to count. But I think my sister counted. There were over 50 of us.
Yeah.
It's deep.
If you get all those votes.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there you go. And then everyone they're married to and connected to, and it goes pretty deep.
It's interesting. I've only known you, a month, 2 months.
Yep.
And when I looked at you, I said, oh, he's a Mendros. You cannot miss it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just a regular guy trying to make a difference. I don't carry a political agenda. I'm like, I lean conservative. That's why I'm a Republican. I never voted to raise taxes. I was on our city council. I was on our school board. I've always held the line on that. Maybe if Maine wasn't the highest tax state, I'd say, all right, maybe we can raise a little. But there's really a lot of places that people don't want to cut that I think have too much money, and then you can readjust. There's ways to readjust. And as Mark Twain, one of my favorite people to quote, sacred cows make the best hamburger.
Yeah.
So,
we don't have to be a poor state. We've got so much.
I know.
The farms, the woods, the trees, the sea, the ocean.
Our water.
I know.
Poland Spring water is #1 water, selling water in the world. And we have a lot of good resources, and there's a lot. And the people here are hardworking, and they're looking for work. I noticed it since I've come down here. There is more opportunities, way more opportunities, job opportunities in southern Maine than even in central Maine. And obviously, when I ran for Congress in 2002, and when you go up to Aroostook in Washington County, and even in western Maine,
probably farmland up there.
There's some farmland, but it's hard, and a big problem that everyone's facing. And I believe it's hope. The whole the drug problem, the addiction problem, and that's actually a book I was working on. interviewing people, and it's unbelievable what you. And really so much of it, I think, is undiagnosed depression, lack of hope, and then they fall into this. They do it, they get depressed, and then they get addicted to it because the stuff's so addictive, and then they just don't want to deal with the shame and come out of it. And for me, fortunate or unfortunate, my self-medication drug of choice was food and video games. And I got big. I was 360 pounds, and I did counseling, and I went and I realized what my triggers were and what I was doing wrong, and I qualified for the surgery. But just preparing for it helped me to lose the weight, and so I never did the surgery. I still theoretically could. I'm not small, but from 360 to 260 is
that's good for you.
Is a good.
That's not easy to do.
No, and I did it. I had been pretty successful, low carb dieting, going to the gym, and losing like an accordion. But this I did 4 years ago, and it was gradual, and I've kept it off. So I'm happy about that.
Moderation. Eat a little bit of everything.
Yep, and like my dad used to say, the ancient Greeks, that was everything in moderation. Yep. Yeah, and I tend to not be. I tend to be a very much all or nothing kind of guy.
I know.
So
we don't go halfway. We go overboard.
That's right. Zorba the Greek said, "God hates a half devil 1,000 times more than an arch devil." That's if you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
We're Greeks. Go all in. So, and then I have a lot of that really inspires my political philosophy, whether it's, a lot of people, their political philosophy is Machiavelli, attack and destroy. I don't think so. I think I'm more of a Plato's Republic kind of guy. Power should be reserved for the people who want it least. Like, I don't want to be in office to have power over people's lives. I want to be in office to get people out of your life. I waited tables in college, and I'd say that's the best example of what your politicians, your state representatives, your elected leaders should be. You need something, and you were at my table. If you needed your water refilled, you needed something, you needed more bread, you needed your order to come out, it was there. The rest of the time, I didn't come, ask how I'd stop by, see how you're doing. I didn't come and sit at your table with you. I let you enjoy your meal, live your life, and be happy. And that's what I think government needs to do.
You served.
Yeah, you serve. You be there when they need something, but you're not there to tell them what to do. Oh, you're using the wrong fork. That's not my business. So that's what I think. Too much effort is spent on getting into people's lives and not enough doing what we're supposed to do. For example, roads. Even your most conservative, even the ancient Romans, they took care of roads. Even the minimal governments take care of roads. It's a role of government. If you privatize it, then only people with money can use them. It's a big mess. The government, even your conservatives agree that's a role of government. And we go back to the Saco traffic issue. Government should be doing that. They should be resolving the traffic problem. That is a role that everyone agrees in government. So let's take the roles we're supposed to do and do them right before we try to be everything to everybody, and let's do the things only the government can do and get those fixed. And then the private sector can handle a lot. And people, So I said I wasn't going to get on my soapbox, but
That's all right. That's interesting.
Yeah. So
I like to know how people think.
yeah. So I really do. I don't know how else to, other than give little stories, that I really like making that difference. I like cutting through the red tape. I like helping people. I like those calls. And so many people that get into office don't. And I honestly don't understand what other, going up there and debating issues. Yeah, okay, it's fun once in a while, but there's so few people, and this was 16 years ago when I served. Things have become so hyper-partisan, so attack. If it's the other party's idea, you can't even pretend you like it. It's so bad, and we need to move past that. And that's what I've tried to do. I haven't said anything about my opponent. He's a nice guy. He cares about his community. I think we're just different on the issues, and I have a different approach. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to attack. I'm not going to vilify. I'm sick of it. You see it in Washington, you see it in Augusta, you see it all over, and it's just wrong. We need to go there. Everybody who's running for office has an idea and wants to make things better. Everyone in office wants to make things better. They're not evil people. None of them are. And
Sometimes,
to run
sometimes we
these
think
attacks
they
and
are.
make you hate somebody, make you hate somebody because they disagree with you. That's so
No.
wrong. You know, from from us Greeks, where democracy came from, and from what our philosophy is, we should not be. It's so wrong, and it's easy to motivate people. It's easy to make people hate, you know, but it's wrong, and it makes me so angry when I see it. It makes me angry when I see my party do it. I call them out. I call out, and there's just too much of that. Everyone, like I said, everyone's trying to make a difference. Everyone's doing what they think's right. We need to respect that. So
Well, it's coming close.
it is. It is, and thankfully it'll all be done, and all the commercials will end, and you'll be able to go to your mailbox without being scared. You'll be able to listen to the radio and actually hear music. It'll be.
I bet you enjoy campaigning, though, and see.
Oh, I do. I like meeting people. I like talking to people. I like hearing issues. I remember the first time I ran. I ran in 1992 and lost, and then I ran in 1998 and won. The worst part of losing was I'd taken notes when I'd gone to people's houses on how I could help them, what they needed, and I couldn't do it. I wasn't going to be able to help them. That was the worst part about losing. My ego, whatever, you know, I knew it was a long shot. So obviously you want to win, you work hard, but I knew it was a long shot. But all those people I wanted to help and I couldn't. It was the worst part. And that's the thing that, but you know, I'm older now. I was a lot younger then, and now I know there's other ways to get things done and help people. So
You're still young. You're not too old.
I know. And I'll tell you though, they were asking me, the newspaper, the difference between when I was 30 and now that I'm 40, 10, 20 years. I was like, I was single, I didn't have any kids, and I had sold my business and I was living off my savings. So and it was a House seat, not a Senate seat. So I really went to every house, had plenty of time to make everything work. Now I'm working, I'm married, I have kids, I have all these other responsibilities, and it's a Senate seat, so it's 4 times as big.
But you learned something, didn't you, doing that?
Oh yeah. But it's a lot, and I'm older, so I don't have the energy. Luckily I lost 100 pounds, so that gives me more energy than I'm used to. But it's definitely different. And
Do you like to eat? You like to eat?
Oh, I'm Greek. My mother cooks very well. Oh yeah, I like to eat. I like
And Greek people overdo it all the time.
We do.
We do.
We try to do everything in moderation, but we really like to
I know it.
take our extremes. And I still do. But I remember I used to go to the Chinese buffet and I'd be like, I can't fit in the booth. Maybe I shouldn't be here. And I'd laugh. And then I'd
eat.
just eat anyway. So I cut that way back. It was like 2 or 3 times a week. Now it's like once every few weeks. And then a pizza buffet, and I cut those back, and I go out. If I go out for Chinese, when I go, I get the meal, and I bring some home with me. So it was, but every so often, you have your, you.
I know.
Yeah, we are.
I know.
You make some baklava, have a little more than I should,
And
but
now the holidays are coming.
Oh yeah, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But I try to prepare for that too. And I walk a lot. So.
Good for you.
Yep.
That's good. You got to keep moving.
Yeah. Yep.
The more I look at you and I can see your family so much.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to Tuesday. It'll be good. We'll be there. I'll be there probably in Saco to shake hands with the voters and might move around. Might be in Old Orchard a little bit too, and hopefully we can get some things done after the election. I really want to focus on getting the traffic, getting DOT really lighting a fire under them, making it a priority, and not just lip service. Because what I found in my years there is bureaucrats are very good at making you feel like they care when you call them and we're going to make a difference. But as really putting the rubber to the road, to use a bad analogy, of really doing something, that's a different story, and you really need to stay on them. I certainly intend to do that.
Well, I hope you do.
Thank you. Thank you. you have any other questions?
No, not really. What do you, what, what is the hardest thing for you
What do you mean?
in your work, in what you do? What is the hardest thing? Not talking to people, certainly not that.
Politics? In politics,
Yeah.
it's when I can't fix the problem. It drives me crazy when I can't get to resolve it. I've had some tough fights that didn't go my way. I had a few. Probably my thing I'm most proud of. In 1999, or 2000, we were denied the Central Maine Medical Center was denied our heart center, and the certificate of need. Maine Medical Center had it locked up. Our leadership from both parties was from there. It's actually the independent who supports me mentions that, and I wouldn't take no for an answer. I had a press conference, and they wouldn't come. My leadership told me to back off. Democrat leadership told the legislators not to come. So I wanted to be bipartisan, so I brought city councilors who were Democrats. I brought county commissioners who were Democrats, and we had a press conference. We did events, and they reopened it, and I made a lot of enemies, and a lot of people have been coming after me since, because the Maine Medical Center board's no one to be messed with. But we have our heart center in Lewiston, and the chairman, Charlie Day, who is the president of the Central Maine Medical Center board, past president, took out, I remember in 2000, the day before my election, it was a full-page ad in the paper, unexpected, praising me, saying, don't believe the attacks against Stavros. He's made powerful enemies to save lives. So that's what I'm the most proud of. And probably the hardest thing for me still to this day, years later, is I used to get calls from people who were having problems with the state, with Department of Human Services. And
there's so much to think about.
And there's one woman called me up. She said her daughter was in a foster home, and the mother had choked her, and because the daughter wanted to go home with her mother. So I called, and I got involved, and I made some waves, and they moved her to another home, and her lawyer called me and said, oh, great job, and we're working on it. And then that was the little girl that died in state care. Oh. In the new home they moved her in, and then I really lost it. After that, I started exposing all the bad stuff. In the Kennebec Journal, I would give them story after story. I really went on a crusade to reform that department, force them to put kids with family members when they could, and they had lied through that report. They had lied. They had accused the woman of moving 6 times. What she did was she went on vacation in a year. They said she moved 6 times in a year. She went to Florida for a week and came back. They claimed that was moving twice. They said she exposed her child to drugs. She went to a party, and there was Jell-O shots in the refrigerator, and her daughter got in and ate a little one. And well, when you write on the report exposed to drugs, and the truth is what really happened, it's the stuff I saw in those reports, that those guardian ad litems and those people wrote up about parents, made the spin in politics look like nothing. It was so over the top. It was like not quite a lie, but so close to it. And in that particular case, they lied to take that child from that woman, and they killed that child. And she called me for help, and I did, but I didn't do enough. And it to this day haunts me. That's probably, that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing I think about all the time, that I failed that family. The state, everybody failed that family, but I apologized that I couldn't do more. Everyone else just went into defense mode about it. So and then I ran for Congress, like I said, and then I got ran for the city council, and got married, had kids, and was really out of politics for a while because it's just too much time. It's too much taken away. But then, I was kind of excited to go back. It's been, this happened in 1999. It still bothers me this much, 19 years ago. I don't normally talk about it, but you asked, and that's really, what's driven me. And I'll tell you, there were lots of families I got reunited. There was a lot of corruption, a lot of abuse of power, and I got people fired that were abusing. There was this one case I worked with this woman. Her caseworker would call her up, tell her, she was doing everything right, but he would miss her appointments all the time. He would call her up, he would yell at her, he would say, you need to be disappointment, and then she wouldn't go. And she's like, he's not calling me. And so, he'd yell at her in the office. And so her lawyer didn't know what to do. And I had him file a FOIA request and subpoena the phone records. Her caseworker wasn't calling her. He was just yelling at an empty phone, pretending to call her. So everyone else in the office could hear, and he could write it in his report. And we subpoenaed the phone records, and he never made those calls, and we got him fired, and she got her children back. Because the problem is they have too much power. There's a lot of problems. There are a lot of kids being abused. There's a lot of kids whose parents are doing drugs. No doubt about it.
Older folks, too.
Yeah. But they're also the people who are there, they're overworked, that have to deal with it, and then they get frustrated, and they know how to game the system, and then they abuse their power with some of them, with somebody that they don't like. They decide they don't like the person, so they're going to spin and abuse their power. That's what I saw. And they weren't bad people. They were just people who, like anyone else, you give someone too much power, and you have no supervision, and you have no ramifications for lying. Eventually, like the saying goes, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. If you give someone that kind of power and no oversight, and somebody crosses them, and just because they personally dislike them, they're going to abuse their power. And it happens all the time. Overworked, frustrated people who feel like they're not appreciated, they're going to do it. And not all of them, but some of them do. And they don't do it all the time, but they've done it, and I used to see it. It's tough. The whole thing's tough. It's a mess. I'm really glad the one big change we made is priority in foster families needs to go to family members. I think that's made a big difference over the years, but that's a big problem. And we saw in cases where people would get money from the government or get low interest loans to have work done to their homes, and then it would be administered through an agency, and the agency would recommend builders, and then the builders would rip the people off, and they didn't know where to go, and they came to us. I remember I was at a meeting. We were overseeing, it was a CAP agency. We were overseeing the department, and I'll never forget, I was on the Business and Economic Development Committee, my first term, and they asked them, well, what happened? They're like, well, this is wrong. If the person's not happy with the builder, they need to contact the builder, and then they need to contact the CAP agency, and then they need to contact the department person and work their way up. There's a chain of command. And I said, no, you're wrong. This person lives in my district. They voted for me. Or whether they voted for me or not, it doesn't matter. I work for them. So they're my boss. They called me with a complaint. I oversee your department. I'm your boss. So my boss called my boss and said, they have a problem with you, and you need to answer that. That's the chain of command. They're not at the bottom. They're at the top. They're the reason I have a job and you have a job. And there's not enough of that, not enough understanding of that by the people who administer government and the elected officials. The elected officials are not at the top, and then the staff is next. It's the voters, the people who run the state. They're the reason every elected official has a job. They're the reason everyone in state government has a job. They're the boss. Then it's the elected officials. Then it's the state bureaucrats who answer to us. That's what I bring. That's the difference between me and everyone else there, because I'm not, that's all I'm there for, is to make sure things are done right. I'm not there to promote an agenda. I did, like on there, I did push a lot of things because of my Greek heritage. I passed a bill, probably that I'm most proud of. The Turkish government is how I found out about it, but UPS did it in Washington. Turkish government gave a $3 million endowment to Princeton University back in the mid-90s, and they could not publish or speak of anything to do with the Armenian genocide unless it was approved by the government of Turkey as part of this endowment. So I put in a bill, we passed it in Maine, and since then several other states, California and Michigan, and the New England states have passed it, that you can't give money to a college and limit free speech on the college.
Oh, I should hope not.
And you can say, study this, do this, that's fine, but you can't limit. Their professors couldn't write about atrocities in the Armenian genocide. They couldn't write about Cyprus. Couldn't even talk about it. The students couldn't. That's wrong. So we passed that. And then in July of 2001, the New York Times did an editorial about my law, calling on other states to call it. In 2003, the Armenian diaspora flew me out. I spoke at a conference in Paris about it. So those are some of the things. Now, being Greek, I knew about that. Every time I would talk about the Armenian genocide, I would bring up, resolutions about Turkey, the school, our issue with the patriarch, the Hagia Sophia, that they're not allowing the school. I guess they're finally breaking, but we
Well,
pushed
that's
to
why
allow
we
the school
send
to
them
reopen.
to school so they can learn.
Yeah, yeah. So those are things. So I guess I do have a little bit of an agenda. I push my Greek heritage. I'm proud of that, and I hope to continue to do that.
I'm sure you speak good Greek.
Maestra, ναι. Στο σπίτι μου μόνο μιλάγαμε ελληνικά.
Yeah.
My mother was very strict growing up.
Imagine. I'm trying to think here. If I could go campaigning, I don't know. I think I could.
You could.
I
It's
think
fun.
so.
It's fun. People are nice. People, the regular voters are nice. You see it on TV. You see all the nastiness and the screaming.
Well, they have to make it interesting.
Yeah, they do. People, because they got to get you. They got to keep you watching.
Yeah, they got to get your attention.
My brother who passed, used to say the point, and it's true. The point of the 24-hour news all the time and all these news stations, they show you all this horrible stuff, so you're afraid to leave your house, so you stay
Yeah.
home and watch TV.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
You are. I don't like to watch the news at night. I'd have nightmares.
It's so bad, and it's so bad. They show you all this horrible stuff happening, the weather patterns. Like, oh, I don't remember this 20 years ago. I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember all these horrible storms happening 20 years ago, but I can tell you that 20, 30 years ago, even if they were happening, there wasn't six stations who were just telling you news who need to sensationalize something. There wasn't two stations just telling you weather who need to talk about something. So I can tell you I didn't see it, but I don't know whether it was happening or not because we weren't so focused on sensationalizing units and everything that happened. So you need to kind of put things in perspective, and there's so much of it. And I'm afraid that young people are just going to tune out. They're not going to believe anything because
I know.
they're so anxious. There's
Even the old people aren't going to believe.
yeah. We talk about people have anxiety and stress. The world is busier. The world moves faster. You have information at your fingertips, but everyone's trying to panic you and scare you. This is the most important election ever. This is the most important election ever. You hear that every 2 years. Like, it is the most important election ever for me because I'm on the ballot. But they're all important. You're a regular voter. They're all important, and the world isn't going to change. You look at the difference between Obama and Trump. What a big change that was. All right, so some would argue the economy is better. Some would argue there's, more strife. But when you think of how extreme difference they seem to be, has the world really changed that much? Are we still at war in Afghanistan? Are our soldiers still there? They were there under Bush. They were there under Obama. They're there now under Trump. Their world hasn't changed. Those people we send and put at risk, their world hasn't changed. And we've had such an extreme change, swing back and forth. So much of it is sensationalized. And there's so much money in politics. There's so many group and put their spin on everything. Call me jaded, but they don't want to really make changes and change things. They just want to rile people up so that they can raise more money for their group. And, it's like health insurance and health costs and healthcare costs. It's a problem. Health insurance costs are a problem, no doubt about it. Access to healthcare is a problem, but we have great healthcare. People from everywhere in the world come to the United States to get their healthcare. So we want to follow their model when we have the best. We don't have the worst. People are happy. Yeah, you get a bill. You get a big bill, but you're alive. And a lot of that's hyperbole. It's not perfect either way, but it's not. When people try to tell you it's so simple and it's so black and white, it's not. And we know that, and people fundamentally know that. It's like my daughter, my 12-year-old who got the scholarship. She's like, 20 million people. There are 20 million people who voted for Obama and for Trump. As extreme as they are, you look at the numbers. So those are the people in the middle in this country. They're not paying attention, but they get it, and they keep our country moving forward. And ultimately, you have to trust that God's influence on them, their They care. They're the people. The people in the middle, the people who work every day and aren't obsessed with politics and keep our country moving. They're the backbone of our country. So you might not be happy with how they swing back and forth. You know, you can tell. I heard a comedian tell a joke about it, but the comedian told a joke, and it's funny. I'll never forget it. The difference between Republicans and Democrats. They're like, we need to spend less. We need to raise more taxes. And it's like, you're overweight. You go to the doctor, and your doctor says, you go to one doctor, and and they say, oh, you need to eat less. You go to the other doctor and say, you need to exercise more. And then you got the people in the middle, and they say, oh, we need a new doctor. And that's kind of how we go back and forth as a country. But it was designed to go that way. And, you know, we've had, it's gone back and forth. You know, we had a civil war. You know, 150 years ago, we went to war. 200 years ago, we had the Alien Sedition Act, where it was illegal to say bad things about the government. We've survived some pretty bad things in this country, and I certainly have faith we're going to continue to survive.
Got to have faith and hope.
Yep.
And think for the best.
Yep.
But we have to face reality, too.
Yeah, we do. And I think the problem with a lot, you say hope, that's hope. I've known a lot of people who, you know, struggle with addiction and have addiction problems, and really hope is the big thing. That can they get out of it? Can they get better? Is there a better life out there? And I believe there is. I think, you know, one of my favorite quotes from Ronald Reagan is the best social program is a good job, because it gives you not just money, not just a way to pay your bills, but sense of purpose. You feel like you're making a difference, like you matter.
Gives you security. You feel safe.
Yeah. You're back blended in with society. There's a lot of good things, and fortunately, the economy's turned around, and you know, pretty dramatically. I'm a Republican. I think Donald Trump had something to do with that, but whether he did or he didn't, whatever arguments you can make, you know, Democrats say it's left over from Obama.
I know.
The fact is, there's good jobs, a lot of good jobs. People starting, you know, $12, $13, $15 an hour for low-skilled, minimal-skilled, high school diplomas, all you need. You know, people can really turn their life around. I know I kept hearing the ad. I was like, I'm going to drop out of the race and go work at Poland Spring. They were hiring $24 an hour. You know, overtime, it's, you know, that's 50,000 plus a year, 50, 60,000 a year with overtime for, you know, minimal skill. That's right there in Hollis. Those are good jobs. Those are really good jobs that you can support your family on. So it's there. The economy's there. It's coming around, and let's just hope it keeps going. And I want to be a part of that and make that happen. Make sure that keeps going and keep businesses going the right way and attract them here.
Well, our time is up.
All right. Well,
went by fast, didn't it?
It did. It did.
And I'm sitting here thinking. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad I got to know you.
Thanks.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy the weather if you can. It's going to be raining. And thank you for listening. And as I always say, don't fall. Love, Zaffie.